Afternoon punters, I just wanted to do a short video this week, just a solo one, just to really thank everyone for all the feedback I got from doing the Business of Betting podcast with Jake Williams last week. I really enjoyed doing it. Jake's a great host. He's had, a huge list of fantastic guests on that show that have provided great information to punters, including me. And so thanks to Jake, and thanks to all those people that wrote to me or made comments on Twitter and various other social media. It's really appreciated, and I'm glad that I did it, and I'm glad that people got something out of it. So, cheers, punters. I got an email about something I touched on in the video about good punting as a separate issue to good analysis, and from Tim. So I thought I'd just talk through the meeting at Flemington on Saturday to sort of further explain some of the stuff I was talking about. It's all really simple stuff. It's really about being more prepared more than anything else. But hopefully if I talk through it race by race, it'll become apparent the sort of things I'm talking about. But before we go into that, I couldn't talk about Flemington without mentioning Mick Goody. Mick's been a great help to me over the last several years. He's a tremendous guy with huge experience. It's been in that job for 15 years. And it's a bit of a tragedy really for racing that his departure from Flemington has been handled the way it has. But I don't want to go into any more than that at this stage, just to say that we can only hope from being a racing fan and someone that earns their living in racing, that racing doesn't lose all of Mick's experience. I'm sure there would be other sports out there that have issues with their fields of play that would be looking at someone like Mick with a lot of hope that they could get him on board. Like, you just think about something like the MCG that's had all sorts of troubles, and other cricket venues, golf, so forth. I mean, someone with Mick's level of experience, people like that are incredibly hard to come by. He's at the peak of his powers. Flemington has raced sensationally over the last 12 months. It's never been better than it is right now, and that's a credit to Mick and his team. So anyway, that'll do on that subject for now, and we'll see what happens in the future in that space. Now, so let's just go through the meeting at Flemington on Saturday, and I'll talk a bit about some of the betting aspects as we go. So the first race was the 2-year-olds. By Numathage. Now, I hadn't looked at the market, or I hadn't done my own prices for that race until very early on Saturday morning. So I did it at about 6:30 and went through, and on my first cut I marked Numathage a very clear favourite, and was surprised when I went and had my first look at the market that it wasn't actually the favourite. Its unraced stablemate was. So they're 2-year-olds. You've got to be open to taking on board further information with lightly raced 2-year-olds and unraced 2-year-olds. So I wasn't going to bet aggressively in that race, but I did. So when I sent the set out, which was just before 9 o'clock, I'd sort of just adjusted things slightly to fit in with the market. I had Numathage as the clear favourite with the unraced stablemate second pick, and the Elton Zara runner, Ollivander, that had an injury cloud, third pick, and I was willing to move the market around a little bit. So the point was that even the longest I could possibly mark Numathage was $4, and at that point there was a lot of 440, some 460 and 480 available. So it was easy to start building a position at well above the price, that the longest price I could mark it, which is what I started to do. It ended up by about 9:30, 10 o'clock, I think it was, it had shortened into below that $4 level, and then it traded there for the rest of until jump time. Now, so when I report my set on my results, because I didn't actually specifically say to my punters, take this price, I just used the VAP price, which I think from memory was $3.60. So I'm just saying, in that case, Tim, it was easy to improve the result on the set by, trying to remember the exact bet I had now, but let's just call it 4 units, say. So actually, I should say, the result from I had a pretty solid day on Saturday, but the actual result on the betting plan as it went out at 8:45 on Saturday morning was -1 unit. Now, my own personal result on the day was about +10. So what I'm going to talk through now is how I got from that -1 position to +10. A few of those units come from taking a better price than what was reported on Nomathage, which was, quite easy to achieve. Okay, moving on to race 2. I didn't have any suggested bets in race 2. I'd marked a loft 270, but there was queries and so forth. The horse got out to start a remarkably good price at 380. So whether people took advantage of that or not, was really up to the individual. So that's neither here nor there. Race 3. Okay, so when I did my market for this race, it was Thursday, and I marked Here the Chant favourite, just ahead of Fragonard. And when I went to the market, Fragonard was a dominant favourite. So straight away, in situations like that, to me, here's an opportunity. So what runners can we back? Because to me, at 1100 metres from gate 1, I'd walked the track. I knew gate 1 was in play, but it was not going to be an advantage. So to me, Fragonard didn't have the credentials to start a dominant favourite, which is how the market had been set up. So I'm looking to back other runners to beat. I'm looking to establish positions on other runners around Fragonard in the early play. So I started backing Here the Chant. I think from memory it was at 460, and there was a deduction, so it might have ended up 420 or something. And I also took double figures about Club Tropicana. So again, the bet on Here the Chant was 5 units. It's probably improved the set by somewhere between 2.5 and 3 units, depending on the average price that you would have achieved. But it wasn't hard to beat the VOP price on Here the Chant if you'd marked the race as I did. Race 4 was Flippant. Flippant was the winner. I had no suggested bets there. I sort of could make a case for Flippant, but she's a hard horse to trust, so I decided just to take the conservative option and not get involved there. Race 5 was a race that I made a bit of a mess of. I backed 3 horses. I sort of didn't really want to. I could see the case for Big Sir, but I don't really like backing horses from above average tempo 1600 metre races into 2000 metre races, and I avoided him to my detriment. So that was a bad losing race for us. Race 6, from the minute I did the race, there was only 2 runners I wanted to be with, being Sahitsi and the import making its strain debut, Poetic Dream. So, in the end, I just had to put my hand up and say I got that race completely wrong, and it was another losing race. And I marked Nozomi $16, so in theory I could have potentially saved on it as it got out beyond that price late in betting, but there would have been a number of runners I would have had to save on if I was doing that, and it would have been marginal. So it's one of those ones where you could have done something there, but I decided not to, and as I said, losing race. Race 7, I backed 5 runners early. Grunt was one of them. It was going to be a small winning result for the set. I was hoping it might push out towards $7, but the big teams and some clever punters were way too good for me there. They were right on top of it. I think it did hit maybe 650 on Betfair from memory. That was about as far as it got, and was very, very solidly backed late, as was Cliffstream and Peaceful State. I'd got into a reasonable position on some of the fringe dollars in the race, like Holy Snow and Mr. So-and-so. So it sort of meant I could include other runners. As it turned out, I did have a unit on Peaceful State. He was one that I'd sort of marked a bit longer, but because he's SP'd favourite in the lead-up race, if there was strong support for him, he was going to interest me, and I did end up wanting to chop out of him. So I actually... my result was a unit worse on this race than the set. So the set won, I think, 2.5 units, so I might have finished with a 1.5 unit profit on the race. Race 7, sorry, that was race 7. Race 8 was Secret Agenda. So here's a good example. Like when I did this race, I think Secret Agenda was probably favourite, just ahead of Fell Swoop and the Elliot and Zara runner, which is a name I should remember but can't. I think I marked, when I first did the market, there was enough room for me to start trying to build a position on Fell Swoop and the Elton Zahara runner, Crystal Dreamer, of course, Crystal Dreamer. So on Saturday morning I started building position eggs. I thought Secret Agenda would drift. Now I marked Secret Agenda $8. I didn't really mind whether I ended up on her or not, but at the time when I sent the set out, she was $4, and I wasn't going to add her onto the betting plan. Now, I got myself into a really good position by averaging the price out on those other two runners over the full length of the betting, and as they were going in the gates, she got out well beyond $8 on Betfair, and it was, you know, it just seemed to me fairly simple to have a small saving bet on her. Now, I didn't have enough on her to win on the race. I still lost on the race, but so I had, let's just call it 3/4 of a unit, which improves the result on the set by about 5.5 units. So, you know, it's a losing race, but it improves the result on the day. Then we go to race 9, and this is the sort of thing I often do. I'd done the race, marked Scarecrow a dominant, clear favourite, well clear of the rest, and started building a position on Scarecrow from Friday afternoon, added to it on Saturday morning, was just trying to catch it at the top. So I got my whole bet on Scarecrow that I had on the betting plan, which I think was 4 units by the time, by 1 o'clock, say. Now then we get to the this stage of the day. The track's playing as I expected. Everything's in order. I'm in a position where I feel like I could mark that horse shorter than I actually did. And I could increase the bet if I wanted to. And then the market starts to support it, so I add an extra unit to that horse. So in the end, I probably averaged 480 Scarecrow. The starting price, I think, was about 360. And again, so that adds an extra, about 3 units to the result on the set. So there was a few. As I've gone through that, I've glossed over a few. There was a few other half unit savers I had here and there, so that didn't win. So when you work it all out, I'm basically using my betting plan as the guide to my betting on the day, and just making little changes around it depending on how betting went. And I'll do more of that on days like Saturday, where you've got a lot of resuming horses and a lot of situations where the market's going to help you a little bit decide exactly which way is the best way to go. The other point I just wanted to touch on too, just back to Secret Agenda. I think it's very disappointing for the industry and punters that the SP for that horse is $6.50. I would think it's embarrassing to the corporate bookmakers, and it's embarrassing to Racing Victoria, and it's embarrassing to whoever is charged with the responsibility of running the VOP. If you go back and look at dynamic odds now, it's hard to find a corporate that's actually, its last price was $6.50. Nearly all of them were $7, $7.50 or $8. And I think the final price matched on Betfair was $8.80. It's the sort of thing that just shouldn't happen. The correct SP for that horse at a minimum is $7, and how it started $6.50 is a mystery to me. Or how its Victorian official price SP is $6.50 is a mystery. So yeah, that's just generally the sort of things that I'm talking about. So there's nothing complicated about it. It's being clear about what your starting position is and how you've priced the horses, and then thinking about the movements in the market as they happen in each race, and do you need to cover other positions? Are there opportunities that have been created that weren't there at the 9 o'clock market? Because remember, that 9 o'clock market has still got somewhere between 20 and 25% percentage in the market, and that will slowly come down to 10 and below. So hopefully that helps. All right, punters, we're getting close to the 15-minute mark. I'll keep it at that for this week because we want to get the show up nice and efficiently, and I'll be back next week with a guest or two or something, and a 2-part show. Cheers, punters.